You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Thanks for joining us this Thursday. I'm Ann Makovic, and here's a look at some of our news headlines this morning. Some breaking news in the manhunt for the shooter who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The FBI in Salt Lake City has just released these photos of a person of interest. They're asking for the public for help identifying this person, whom they say is college-aged. Earlier today, the Utah Public Safety Commissioner said law enforcement has good video footage of the suspect. Police say they have recovered the weapon used in yesterday's killing, a high-powered bolt-action rifle. Police say a single shot came from a rooftop about 200 yards away as Kirk was speaking to a crowd of about 3,000 people at Utah Valley University. Kirk was a leading voice for young conservative voters and a supporter of President Trump. More now on the deadly shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. It happened right as Kirk was fielding a question about gun violence. Investigators say they do have good video footage of the killer. Law enforcement sources tell CBS News the single shot was likely fired from the roof of a nearby building. That shooting happening during an event that Kirk was hosting at Utah Valley University. And today, authorities say they have made some breakthroughs in the investigation.
We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., the subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood.
2 people were detained right after the shooting. Investigators say they determined both had nothing to do with the attack. Kirk was 31 years old. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. This is just the latest in a string of attacks against political figures over the past several years. Kenny Choi spoke with a leading researcher on gun violence and has more on the troubling political climate across the country.
From the assassination attempts of President Trump during the 2024 campaign to June of this year, when 2 Minnesota lawmakers were shot and killed, high-profile incidents of political violence in the country have become prevalent.
The incidents are an outcome, if you will, of an increased level of polarization in the United States, of pro-violence rhetoric on the part of elected officials.
Dr. Garen Wintemute is director of the UC Davis Violence Prevention Research Program.
The vast majority of Americans wholly reject political violence as a way of resolving our disputes.
Wintemute and researchers have studied data and conducted national surveys on political violence since 2022. In those annual surveys, about 30% of adults believe that physical violence is usually or always justified to advance at least one political purpose.
That kind of thinking out in the public can create a climate of acceptance for violence that makes it easier for violence to happen.
San Mateo Board of Supervisor and former Congresswoman Jackie Speer, who was shot 5 times during the 1978 Jonestown tragedy, spoke about the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
He was a young man with a point of view that had a lot of followers, and now he's been silenced. And it's more than a tragedy. It is a violation of all the principles that this country is based on.
Dr. Wintemute cautions against this type of violence becoming commonplace.
We have got to reverse that climate of acceptance. We simply have to create a climate in the United States, a culture in the United States that rejects violence.
Charlie Kirk and his conservative group Turning Point USA appeared at San Francisco State University just this past May. It was part of a tour of college campuses around the country. He hosted a Prove Me Wrong table, as he often did, inviting people in the audience with opposite views to debate him. It drew hundreds of people, including some protesters, you might imagine. Kirk also hosted a similar event at UC Berkeley in 2019. It was hosted indoors, but there were protesters outside and even an altercation. We spoke with the president of UC Berkeley's college Republicans, who say the political divide has gotten out of control.
It's just going to keep getting worse. I don't see any path where this is going to be less bad in 5 years, at least not now. Hopefully this can be like a turning point for the United States.
We are continuing our coverage of the deadly shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. He was no stranger to the Bay Area. In fact, back in May, he hosted a discussion at San Francisco State, drawing hundreds of people, from supporters to curious onlookers and even protesters, of course. Kevin Coe spoke with Bay Area Republicans about Kirk's death, his influence on young conservatives, and their concerns about the political climate.
Welcome, everybody. Riley, welcome back to San Francisco State. You've been here before.
I have. This is my third time. Certainly more pleasant than the past few times. So very, very excited.
All right, you know how it works. You come up, you could disagree, front of the line. We're going to have a lot of fun today, and maybe eventually we'll make San Francisco red.
It was just back in May that conservative activist Charlie Kirk joined former college swimmer Riley Gaines at San Francisco University. The stop was part of Kirk's The American Comeback Tour on college campuses, where he hosts a Prove Me Wrong table, inviting people in the audience with opposite views to debate him.
You didn't guess anything. You had a lady asking me what my belief was.
The event drew hundreds of people and a lot of law enforcement standing by to keep the peace as Kirk supporters got into a shouting match with protesters. Miguel Muniz, president of the Berkeley College Republicans, says Charlie Kirk was the face of young conservatism.
You never agree with anyone on everything, but you know, he brought me further to the right. He brought most of the people I know in the CRs, he brought us to the right.
His group was planning on hosting Kirk soon.
There was talk of him coming here in the coming weeks.
Kirk was shot and killed at Utah Valley University during one of his trademark college campus appearances.
It's unfortunate, but it's not unexpected. If you look at how our college Republicans are treated on campus, people screaming at people who are just tabling, people spitting at us.
During the 2020 election cycle, a man was punched while he was recruiting for a conservative group on campus. Neither man was a student, but Miguel says it's just one example of political tensions reaching a boiling point.
The language that they use, fascism, Nazism, attributing that to the right, it's like obviously Charlie Kirk's going to get shot. And I just hope it's not one of my CRs that's going to get assaulted next.
This was the attempted assassination of a presidential candidate. And today we had the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a non-elected American who chose to tell the truth no matter the cost or the risk.
For Contra Costa MAGA patriot Lisa Disbrow, Kirk's fatal shooting shows how dangerous the political climate can be. She's held nearly 100 demonstrations in Lafayette and is now even more motivated to keep going.
Someday soon there will be movies about Charlie Kirk. There will be songs, there will be books. People who never had an interest in the conservative movement will be asking the question, who was this guy? What did he stand for? What did he say? Just like Martin Luther King.
Back in Berkeley, Miguel says Kirk's death may weigh heavily for quite some time.
It's just going to keep getting worse. I don't see any path where this is going to be less bad in 5 years, at least not now. Hopefully this can be like a turning point for the United States. It's a shame, but I do think there's hope in the future. We're just not there right now at this moment. Clearly not.
UC Berkeley has its own chapter of Kirk's nonprofit, Turning Point USA. The organization advocates for conservative politics on high school and college campuses. Some members told us they are still struggling to process what happened.
Really anxious. I had to skip multiple classes today. I just feel really anxious.
Charlie is one of the people, probably the main person who got me into politics. Charlie Kirk has had probably out of anyone the most influence in the Republican Party. He's the man who single-handedly got Donald Trump elected with the field operation that happened in the 2024 election.
The UC Berkeley chapter of Turning Point USA was supposed to have their first meeting of the year last night. Instead, members had a memorial. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are condemning that attack. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said this cannot be the new norm. He was shot at a congressional baseball game practice back in 2017.
Unfortunately, we've seen politics degrading, where some people feel if they disagree with you politically, they've got to try to go and eliminate those people.
Whether you're a Republican or Democrat or unaffiliated or just someone living their life, everybody must condemn this.
Every living president of both parties has denounced the attack. Former President Joe Biden saying there's no place in our country for this kind of violence and offering prayers for Kirk's wife and 2 young children. Again, stay with us for updates on this continuing story. on air on our website, kpix.com, and streaming on the free CBS News app.